So there are times when we get too cocky as a civilization and think that we're invincible, and then something dreadfully proves us wrong. I think that back to school season 2020 is going to do precisely that. We should probably mention the college situation right now and just spoil everything, because this is really turning into a generational problem. All of these generations that we're turning into the equivalent of the Great Depression generation without a depression. So when it comes to colleges, I'm just telling you right now, not one residential college should be in operation anywhere in the United States of America. I don't care if you're in a more liberal state with a stricter lockdown and lower virus transmission rates. No, it is unreasonable to expect anyone who's college age, who wants a college experience, to take precautions in college. It is completely unreasonable. I question the judgment of every single dean or every single college honcho out there who should know that there are certain expectations when an 18, 19-year-old becomes a freshman in college, and every year after that. College means something in the United States, and some of that is the college experience. And if they can't get that, it's not going to work. So what I'm most concerned about when it comes to our young people is the generational effect. We've already seen with Gen Z how they are known for being nervous or kind of bummed out about stuff because their childhoods got damaged or wrecked by the Great Recession. And you think about, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's that age. Literally everybody around you could potentially have had a happy childhood except for you. Not you, and you don't get a chance to do it over. So what's that going to do to your mental state the rest of your life? But not you. The baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, everybody before you had some form of a happy childhood, adolescence, but not you. No. Mom and dad lost their job and had to go stock shelves at Target for $9 an hour. You started approaching the age you could build some work experience, and the millennials, the younger millennials, still had not recovered from not being able to have standard jobs because people with bachelor's degrees were working at McDonald's during the recession. I can't relate to that because, my adolescence was during the Clinton years, and my college years were after George W. Bush came to office. But the thing is, you put yourself in the shoes of these young people, and it's pretty easy to see why they are the way they are. You think of, for example, the tenacity of the people that went through the Great Depression. Whether it's the World War II generation, my grandparents, who went through the Great Depression, and they were tenacious the rest of their life because of how hard it was during the Depression. They pretty much lost their entire young people part of their lives. Most of their childhood, their adolescence, and their 20s. The post-war boom didn't start until my grandparents were nearly 30 years old and had started having kids. So you think about that, and you think about this whole thing with the tenacity of the Depression generation, and then you think about the career focus of the silent generation, which gives us folks in their 70s nowadays like Bernie Sanders and whatnot, who were kids during the Great Depression. So they have memories of being kids during the Great Depression, not necessarily full-blown adults, but they were known for being very heavily career-focused because they made for great company men by the time they were hitting 20 around the post-war boom. Now, unless you were Bernie. Bernie Sanders kind of did his own thing. But the silent generation is known for being incredibly career-focused, and even the older baby boomers could have taken influence from their older cousins or whatever, and have been way more career-focused than the younger boomers afterwards. It's all generational things and demographic stuff, things you hear about, common traits with people in certain age groups. But the tenacity of the World War II generation and, to an extent, the silent generation is pretty well known at this point. And now here we are without a depression, but the Great Recession instead. So the millennials, problems in their adult life like myself. Gen Z, childhood or adolescence gets damaged by it, plus the aftermath. We can't forget that. And now we have the pandemic damaging Gen Z's college experience. And the generation after, the kids right now, Generation Alpha, may very well be the next baby boomers, because Gen Alpha means anybody who was born in this century. So that are too young to be Gen Z. Let me actually look that up. Let's pop that open here. Generation Alpha. Wikipedia, there's already a Wikipedia page for it. The early 2010s is the starting birth years. So these are people who will grow up. Yeah, okay, so I was a little off. Gen Z continues here. So let's see. Researchers in popular media use the early 2010s as the starting birth years. These are the little kids. They may remember the pandemic messing with their childhood, but they will not have memory of the Great Recession. So that's going to separate them substantially. Gen Z, I guess, apparently under major generations, is supposed to be ending like 2012-ish or so. So the youngest Gen Z born in 2012. So what I'm thinking of here is this whole situation with the way things work when you have a generation that has a reason to be tenacious. How is that going to compound when it comes to the folks who've been affected by the pandemic? And also, now the pandemic is picking up where the Great Recession left off. So once again, Gen Z, damaged, childhood or adolescence damaged by the recession, and now college experience being damaged by the pandemic. So we're probably going to keep hearing the stories we keep hearing about the colleges that are having problems with outbreaks, because anybody right now who wants the college experience, I guarantee you it is going to be a constant fight to get them to adhere to any kind of social distancing guidelines. And it's going to be a continuation of what I've seen with certain parents who are upset that my kids can't have a normal childhood. Why masks? I see a lot of this crap on Facebook locally. One of the reasons why I kind of stay away from doing much mingling in town. There's a lot of this antagonism in this area. But the situation here is, you put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's trying to go to college right now, and literally everybody else around them can talk about, oh, they had 4 years college experience, uninterrupted, lots of fun, blah, blah, blah. And now you have somebody who's 19 or 20. Their choices are put it off and be going to college, trying to get that experience later in your 20s when the pandemic is dealt with, or try to do it now, but it's going to be heavily restricted and you're going to be under the thumb of college administrators, especially with your social media, not to break social distancing guidelines. If I was college age right now, I just work. I would just work somewhere, save up some money, have some money in the bank before going to college later on, and then get the experience later. I mean, it's just, now, I think considering all the people I've known who didn't go to college, that partied all through their 20s despite not going to college, I really think that I don't think it would be too much to ask. If somebody wants a college experience, instead of going in 1920, be a college freshman at like 25, 26 or something, and yeah, and maybe you'll have a few gray hairs by the time you're going to your last college party or something like that, but at least, you know, you can have some normal kind of experience here of it. I think the colleges and universities are morons for trying to run any kind of residential college, anything, anywhere. Nobody who's that age is going to want to go through anything that restricts their once in a lifetime experience. They're not going to want to do that. It's going to be an endless fight until the college is shut down. And I really have to wonder about some of these. It's like, you know, when you talk about schools, the high school, it's like, this is exactly what the Rooney character in the Ferris Bueller movie was making fun of. The high school principal who's aloof in their ivory tower and doesn't really realize what it means to be a high schooler or whatnot. This is the college version of that. I seriously wonder, especially with the academic credentials of many of these college administrators and deans, have they completely forgotten what it was like to go to college by the time they're making whatever money they're making as a dean of students or whatever? These people that are in charge of these colleges that in any way, shape, or form think they can operate a residential campus right now, have they completely forgotten what it's like to be a college student? What people want to do when they're college students? I cynically refer to the dumb responses to the coronavirus pandemic as the March of the Stupids. Well, folks, grab the popcorn right now. We're about to watch March of the Stupids College Edition. No residential college should be operating right now. None. Distance learning only. And quite frankly, they're going to take a hit. They're going to take the hit. Whether it's to the endowment or to whatever, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is, show me a single person who wants a residential college experience that doesn't have some reservations about these extra guidelines. It's just like, I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to work. I'll tell you, my experience, I was somewhat pragmatic when I went to college because I knew that I had a lot of financial aid for doing well in high school, plus need-based aid for coming from a poor part of Connecticut. Not everybody in Connecticut is super rich. A lot of people think the entire state is like Greenwich. It is not. So I had a lot going for me, and it was really a stroke of luck. It was a bit of entrepreneurial spirit that I rose to the occasion and tried to graduate with a fancy Latin title by putting in the work and earning my first pair of glasses at a much, much younger age than a lot of other people in my family. Because I spent years going to college off of 5 hours sleep. I'll tell you right now, Diet Coke with lemon was my caffeine beverage of choice. As nasty as that stuff was, you know, the harsh taste of the lemon Diet Coke would knock you, boom, pow, you know, that would wake you up, and then the caffeine would kick in later, but you would have energy for hours to do all that reading and all that work to do well in your classes. So, and I was a full-time student, residential, and I was working audiovisual office up to 20 hours a week, the max for work study. So I actually had some friends in college who were actually finding ways to juggle full-time course load and a full-time job. And they were paying for their own place. Those people were amazing. Absolute ironclad, hard-working, awesome people. Every last one of them. So, and my college sweetheart was one of those as well. But that's another story. So, this is the thing. To wrap up this little tangent and get into this whole discussion about the whole Mizkif thing. No residential college should be operating right now. None. College will not coexist with this pandemic. The problems we're having in all these colleges and universities are going to continue until there's a federal mandate to shut them all down and do distance learning only. And then there may be people who put off college because they want the experience and not just the distance learning stuff. So probably who goes to college during all this, if they do distance learning in classes, is going to change substantially to people who don't mind doing like ad hoc classes to work on small degrees here and there. You know, I've always been wondering, at what point will comprehensive college degrees get disrupted by all of this ad hoc education for like certifications for trades and stuff? I've been wondering that for years. Because, quite frankly, you know, my own degree had a lot of electives in it, which, thinking back now, the student loans probably weren't worth it. I've used a couple of them here and there, but I was fighting hard against not taking irrelevant classes. So when I had to take lots of liberal arts classes and whatnot, I would pick things like broadcast media, constitutional law, communication, psychology, stuff that I thought I could use as a business leader somewhere. But a lot of times I guessed correctly. There was one, though, there was one class, though, that I took because I knew it would be the easiest A in the school. International Studies, Cultural Diversity in the Modern World. I had the whole academic left-wing political correctness stuff down ice cold and just put that in all of my essays and aced the class very easily. So that was my cheesiest college experience, was knowing exactly how to ace the class, because I pretty much knew liberal arts professors by then. No, they were all political. They were all older baby boomer, and they protested the war in Vietnam from their dorm rooms. And when we went to war in Iraq, it kind of rekindled the whole hippie spirit in many of them. So they got really activists when they, as professors and whatnot. So yeah, I pretty much knew what I was dealing with. So, but it's all demographics, ladies and gentlemen. It's all demographics.